Hello everyone, this is Josh Vision, and I'm here to give you my Merlin Season 1, Episode 1 review. So we start off this episode with young Merlin basically traveling the roads, heading towards Camelot. So the narrator makes it clear that no matter how great someone's destiny can be, they can't look into the future. Much like everybody else, they have to learn through trial and error, and they have to basically just learn from experience. So we start off this episode, like I mentioned before, with Merlin traveling to Camelot. He enters Camelot, and there he's greeted with the sight of an execution. So we have this character named Thomas. I forgot his last name, honestly. But either way, he is about to be executed by King Uther for doing the heinous crime of performing magic. So right next to King Uther is this attractive younger woman. So I didn't know her name, obviously, until later in the episode. So after the execution, with basically the beheading of this magic user, we see this character's mother, who's old, disgusting, kind of looks like a toad, to be honest with you. But either way, and she's rightfully pissed off. She was saying that he didn't do anything wrong. He performed magic, and that basically by the end of the day, Uther is gonna know what it's like to feel what it's like to lose a child of his own. So, as we can kind of put one together with the whole Arthur and Uther mythology and all that crap. So, we meet Arthur later on in the episode. Before I get to that, we're going to talk about Merlin meeting Gaius. Gaius is basically, I believe, the number one physician in Camelot. So when Merlin meets Gaius, he prevents Gaius from actually killing himself. Because Gaius, as soon as Merlin enters the door, he's kind of caught off guard. I believe he's at the top, somewhere. He falls off, and Merlin's able to use, his magical talents to put the bed right in the way before Gaius is able to crash down on the ground. So Gaius is like, how the heck was he able to do that? Merlin's like, I don't know, it just happened. He was like, no, it didn't happen. You did that on purpose. And there's like this back and forth. And Merlin mentions the fact that he was sent by his mother, who Gaius knows. And Gaius like, oh, it's you, Merlin. But weren't you supposed to be here on Wednesday? And Merlin's like, well, today is Wednesday. So just from that exchange, you can kind of tell that Gaius, despite being really brilliant, is kind of scatterbrained. He's really kind of forgetful. So essentially, what we get from this episode is that fact that Merlin's magical talents has been noticed by his village, and it kind of made him an outcast. And his mother sort of gave him to Gaius, sent him to Camelot for his own benefit, and for his own good, and that she thought that Gaius, everybody would be able to sort of help him and teach him, and grow to be the father figure that he needed. Now, when it comes to Arthur, we meet in this episode. He's a pompous jerk. He's an a-hole. Like, the first time we see Arthur in this episode, we see him and his little noble friends messing with the servant boy, like using him basically as, as a dummy, like beating him and all that stuff, like having target practice. And one of these occasions, Merlin actually tries to stop Arthur from doing that, telling him basically what he was acting like, which is basically he was acting like a complete a-hole. But Merlin didn't know, who King Arthur, who Arthur was. So I believe Arthur beats the crap out when Merlin tries to take a swing at him. But the only reason why Merlin took a swing at Arthur mainly was because Arthur kind of, pegged him into doing it. After that, he finds out who he is, and he's in the dungeon. Thankfully, Gaius, due to his connections, is able to get Merlin out the dungeon, and his sort of payment for what he did to Arthur, or at least what he attempted to do to the crown prince, was basically to get rotten food and tomatoes thrown at him for at least an hour. And it's during this exchange we meet Guinevere, and Guinevere is actually the daughter of, I believe, Camelot's top blacksmith. After that, we get the name of the gorgeous younger woman that was right next to King Uther during the execution of the magic user, and her name is Morgana. So we find out that Morgana is actually a ward of King Uther, and that she's very rebellious, and she's not afraid to tell the king, how she feels about things. And she basically seconds what the witch mother said earlier in the episode, basically saying that he didn't really do anything wrong. He was just caught for practicing magic. And Uther's rebuttal to that was basically, listen, you wasn't around 20 years ago when magic was running rampant and it was evil and destroying everything. I had to do this to set an example, and I would do it to anyone else that dares to try to do something against the law, especially when it comes to magic. And he's like, listen, we have this singer coming, Helen, who's a great singer. She's coming for the feast. You're going to come along. And Morgana's like, no, I don't feel like going because, one, I'm not in the mood to go. Two, you did some effed up crap with that poor lad. And three, once again, I don't want to go. And he's like, listen, I'm your ward, I'm your protector. At least show me enough respect to come, to the feast, even if you don't really want to come. So that's how the conversation ends. So later in the episode, we see that the singer, Helen, I believe, like I mentioned, she gets murdered by the witch in a very weird kind of thing. It was kind of like a voodoo thing in which the witch kind of killed off the guards, and then she stabbed the doll like once or twice in the heart, I believe, and Helen died. And then she took the form of Helen, and she went to Camelot. So while she's in Camelot, obviously she's in disguise. She has the voice and all that crap, but she's really charming the king, getting him in a place of comfort. They have one conversation in regards to their children, and she brings about the fact how Arthur doesn't know his mother, and how it must have been really difficult for the king to raise Arthur as a single parent. And he was like, yes, and she said, well, hopefully you can find love again. He's like, hopefully, but he doubts it. So it's like, in a way, she was making a connection, like a connection with him, like I mentioned before, like getting him in a comfort zone. In a way, she was trying to expose her identity, like trying to give a little bit of justification of what it's like to be a parent, the love you have for your children, and what it might, be like to have them taken away from you. And after that conversation, she's like, well, I hope you never have, to feel the pain of being a single parent. So after that, we have Arthur versus Merlin 2, but this time Merlin wins by basically using his magical tricks to basically make Arthur look like a total jackrabbit, and a klutz. I believe later on the episode, actually, when the feast happens, the witch woman does some type of singing, and everything like the lights go off, and it's all webby and crap, and like kind of misty, and everyone's asleep. And I think the only one who's not asleep is Merlin, and I believe possibly Arthur and his father, or they're like a little bit awake, but Merlin's wide awake. So the witch sees Arthur. She's trying to I think she tries to throw something at Arthur, but Merlin uses like, I believe, something on the top of the ceiling to crash upon her, and she's about to die. Before she's about to die, she tries to throw one last dagger at Arthur straight through the heart, but Merlin's able to slow it down and push Arthur out the way, and that's the wrap, basically. She dies. So King Uther sees this, and so does the rest of the royal court of Camelot. And to reward Merlin for saving his son, he is now King Arthur's servant and squire, basically. So that's how the episode kind of ended, and both Merlin and Arthur like, what? They kind of like, because they kind of hate each other. But one thing I have to say before I end this review is the fact that Merlin spoke with a dragon that's below Camelot, and I believe that Gaius mentioned to Merlin that Uther let one dragon from the magical period, like what seemed like to be the Dark Ages, basically, alive to set an example to people. And it was through this dragon which Merlin realized that his destiny is tied to King Arthur, and that they both need each other. And that even though he may think Arthur's an idiot, a jerk, and an a-hole, that Arthur's going to be a great king someday, and Camelot and all that stuff. But in order for that to happen, they need each other and all that stuff. So that was the main reason, besides Merlin being a good person, that Merlin saved Arthur. But if there's anything I missed, you guys, write it down below in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. Adios. Until next time.